Okay, welcome to this video on how to map different physical geographic regions and natural disasters and kind of compare the both using a slide map in ArcGIS. Okay, first and foremost, we're going to start with a new blank map, and we're going to try and find a base layer, or not a base layer, a layer that we're interested in. Basically, we have a couple of options of searching for layers. Some we've talked about in other modules already. Or certainly for this one, we're going to click search for layers. And while you could just go to ArcGIS Online is a great way to just type in honestly like random things and see what pops up. For example, you could type like Canada physiographic and if we spell Canada right, and see what we get. For those of you who have joined the OCDSB VLE group that I've put together, if you go to my groups and go to filter my groups and go to that particular group, you should also find it in there along with a bunch of other layers that I've put there that might be of use to you. If you ever want information about the layer, you just have to click on it, and the person, if they've written a description, will give you a very nice long description. If you're ever concerned about, is the source reliable, you can click on the link here and get a user profile. But Esri Canada is definitely someone we can trust. To add the layer to the map, we're going to click the plus sign or add to map down at the bottom, and she's going to show up. Now, as you can see, we've got our layer here, and it looks great. It doesn't give us much information about the landform regions outside of just their name and in French and English. If you want, you could have students do a join feature, right, where they create an Excel sheet with the names of the landform regions in one column, and then the description in the second, and then do a join features like we talked about in the demographics module. That's one option. And if you don't want students to do all the landform regions, for some reason maybe you want them to do just one or two of them, there is, if you do searches, you could you could search just for like Canada Western Cordillera should show up, I believe. Yeah, so you'll see people who will have created layers of just the Western Cordillera as well. So lots of different options there for you. So pretty straightforward, right? We've got a map of Canada's landform regions. Something that we can definitely work with, with our students. But of course, we're trying to look at interrelationships, between different physical features in this unit. And one of the things we might want to look at is maybe there's a pattern between a certain type of natural disaster and our physiographic regions. So we can go searching in layers for some different natural disaster events that have occurred, and there are some in there. Some are a little bit more dated than others. Some stopped like 10 years ago or whatnot. And I prefer this method I'm going to show you just because it gives you an opportunity to show students other ways where we can use GIS data or borrow from other places. And so I just have my students go to the Canadian Disaster Database. What's great about it is, first, you can actually, as an activity, have students kind of come up with a definition of what is a disaster, like what defines a disaster, and then kind of compare to what the Canadian government says qualifies as a disaster, which is kind of interesting. But when we go to search the database, we got two different options. We have the standard view and the geospatial view. I usually go with the geospatial. It's a little bit more visual. And it's great. We can click all of Canada, and we can also look at international if we want. The international ones are like natural disasters that have happened in other parts of the world or started in other parts of the world would have had an impact on Canada. And that's actually really great for, I think it's expectation B3 that talks about that. But anyways, for this one, we're going to click all of Canada. We can select an event type. So we've got lots of different options here. For this purpose, I'm going to go with tornadoes, which is here. We can then enter a time period. Again, you can tell the students what to do. You can let them decide, etc. I believe I usually go, 1950 to 2020 is what I've done. You could do more recent, whatever you want. And the other things I just leave blank because, it's got great information, but I think it's fine to just leave it blank. All right. So their map shows up, and you'll see some numbers here like 17. Like, what the heck's that all about? When you zoom in, you'll see more and more, and that is not even close to. All right. So as they start to become clearer and clearer, and we can click on the events, and it will give us some information about it, which is nice. But what I want to show you guys is, sorry, come here. What I want to show you guys is, here. Okay. So what we can also do is we can export this data and input it into ArcGIS. There's a couple of ways to do that. In the module, I show you how to do both the KML and the tab delimited text versions. They both do very different things. I mean, they give you the same stuff, but it looks a little bit different, right? This basically gives you almost exactly what you see on their database on your ArcGIS map. For this one, I'm going to actually go with this one, the tab delimited text. I want each thing to be completely separate. And you're going to hit download, and I've actually already downloaded it, so I'm going to just leave that. And so now you've downloaded a layer, right? So again, we go back to add, and we're going to now go again, add layer from file, something we've done in one of the previous modules. Again, I'll go through it with you. I called this Tornadoes 1950 to 2020. So remind me of my year breakdown. All right, and then I'm going to click import layer. And again, remember when we add a layer, ArcGIS, it wants to know, okay, like, how am I locating the features, right? How do I know where this is? Again, we can kind of help it out if we want by telling it that everything here is in Canada. And what's great is here, let's see if it figured it out. No, so again, sometimes the location field, it figures it out. In this case, it has not. So we're gonna go place, all right, because that's where it's located. And then we're gonna say city, okay, because for most of it, it gives us a city. And we're gonna add the layer. Now, sometimes for whatever reason, two of the things aren't going to show up for various reasons, and I think in the grand scheme of things, that's fine. Like, it sucks that not all features were able to be added, but in the grand scheme, I don't think it's anything to get too concerned about. So we're going to hit OK. So now we got to decide, okay, well, what attribute do we want to show? And estimated total cost is, is interesting. We can kind of get a nature, start a description or discussion around, how much these natural disasters are costing particular areas or whatnot. But I'm going to go with just the event type. Okay. And I'm gonna go with both should be fine. Yeah, all right. And I can change the color if I want, or I could even change the shape because I did a tornado. I could go to, I think it's under disasters here. Let's see if we can find that's hurricane. And there's tornado. Boom. Okay, now I have little tornadoes all over the map. And if we didn't like the size of it or whatever, right, we can make it bigger if we wanted to, etc. Okay, so then we click OK, and then we click Done. And now we have a map showing both our physiographic regions and our tornadoes. And I think it looks pretty good, right? Students at this point should be able to start to come up with some conclusions in terms of, there must be maybe some kind of relationship between the types of, landform regions, in the natural disaster, right? There must be something in common between the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence lowlands, and the interior plains, right? And yeah, we have a couple outliers, but that's okay. And then so students can just compare that. Again, you could share this map with students yourself. You can have them create, etc. But I'm going to show you how to make what's called a slide map. And what I do with this is I actually just I give students an example like this, perhaps, and then I let them kind of go and figure out what they want to look at and create their own map that they're then going to share with their peers to look for, to see if there's any other kind of relationships that exist. So to do that, first we have to save this map. So we're going to save it, and we're going to go to tornadoes. Not physiographic regions and tornadoes in Canada 1950 to 2020. Okay. Gonna put this in this one, and we'll take it just good old CGC ID. We're gonna save the map. All right, so I've saved the map, and my next step is to go to my content. And in my content, we have to go find where that map. So I put it in my test fun times folder. Here's the web map right here. I'm going to click on it. And here again, right, if I had a description, would it be here? I could edit it, add the description, tells us which layers are included in it. We can open it again if we want to. We have some options with settings and whatnot. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to call what's called a web app. And there's lots of different web apps out there, and I strongly suggest you give some of them a try. But we're going to create a web app, and in case you just missed that one, it's under web app built. Oh no, I think I do this one. Yes, sorry. All right, let's go through it one more time. We go create web app and go configurable apps. And there's lots of different things here that we can do. The one we're going to be looking for, though, is called, I believe it's called Story Map Swipe. But like I said, there's lots of different options here you can take a look at, but we're going to go with this Story Map Swipe and Spyglass. Okay. And you can do a preview if you want. So if you want to look at some of the others, go for it. We're going to create web app. Again, we have to give it a name. It can be the same name as the map that we have currently. All right. We're going to click done, and it's going to start the process of making a web app. So it gives us two different options. The one is the vertical bar option, and the other is the spyglass. Now, in the written document, I did the vertical bar. I'm actually going to show the spyglass in this one. So we're going to click next, and it's basically asking which layer is it that we want to disappear, or which layer do we want to reveal itself. So I'm going to have the tornadoes one be the one that reveals itself through the spyglass. So we're going to hit next, and basically here we've got all of these options. I would just keep exactly the same way. This is if you wanted students to look up a specific location or something like that. And if you get really good with students and using this yourself, you can also create a swipe series where basically if you swipe over a certain spot, some information will show up. Okay, and we're going to keep it clicked off for now. I always leave this blank because I'm never too sure what I want to put on it, to be honest. But I could put also physio graphic regions and tornadoes 1950 to 2020. And then we're going to click Open Map. And basically now the student has a few more editing things that they can choose. But again, what's interesting about this is if you're a student, right, and when they share this with their peers, right, and the peer opens it up, now they have like this spyglass, and they can basically kind of go around and try and figure out where the tornadoes are occurring, right, and then they start to appear. Okay, and then they can even zoom in more into like Ontario here, right, and start to see like all the different tornadoes that are happening in the Great Lakes St. Lawrence lowlands, right? I can kind of follow along. Okay, so I think both the vertical bar or the spyglass, I think either work great. But basically, I would have students kind of create one of these to share with their peers, or even submit as an assignment and talk about okay, what's happening here? What's the relationship, right? Why are tornadoes really only occurring in these specific parts of Canada? So up here in section, up here, we can change the map if we need to. The title of it. In section 2 here, we could even have students do a write-up, right, answering that question of the interrelationships of why things are occurring where they are. Right up here, we have the save button, which is incredibly important, right? Especially if we make changes to any of these places. Okay, and then up here we have the share button, which is how students would then share their map, with you or with others, right? So you go like share with my organization, and then they get a link to it. Okay. And then finally, if you or a student want to go back and change any of the settings that have been made, we can just hit the settings button here, and you can go back and forth. And there's a little bit more information that comes up here too, if you want to play around with some of the colors and stuff like that, that are also available to students. But that's basically how you create a side map. So, right, if you take the link, just click it, right, you can just open it to see what it would look like as a user. And as you can see, we're missing some information on here, but like overall, it's we got a lot of stuff here. So it's a great way to again get kids working with GIS using a different database from the natural disasters or the Canadian disasters database, importing that data, looking for a relationship, right? We don't even have to do physiographic regions, right? You could do climate and different natural disasters. You could do different physical activities like mining, oil sands, natural gas. You could even go to the human geography and look at where like Canadians live, and see what kind of relationships exist there. So there's lots and lots of different options here you can do with this map. And then have students share it with each other as well, which I think is quite valuable. So anyways, overall, I hope you find the swipe map to be useful, and good luck.